Hi everyone, it's Kelly from Kelly's Bead Boutique. So today I'm going to show you how to do something just a little bit different. I love buttons. We have tons of them in the store. And the ones with the shanks always perplex people because what can you do with a button other than do something up? Oh, well, I'm going to show you how to make a pair of earrings with them. I'm going to add a few jump rings and a few little embellishments, and we're going to show you how to make earrings out of buttons. So come and join me and I'll show you how. Alrighty, so I'm going to show you how to make these earrings, and the things we're going to use for tools are our 4 basic tools, and I'm going to pop a link down below to show you the video on how to use those tools. I've also got a couple balled up head pins, some assorted jump rings, and I've got our buttons. These are our tiara cast, and I think they're called the bird in the tree or something like that, but the key to these earrings is having something that has a shank on the back. So you can use any button that has a shank, and we have tons of buttons in the store, and I'll put a link to those below too. We also have some ear wires. I have some little beaded embellishments, some little charms, and I've got some chain, and I'm going to show you how I cut my chain to make it easier for measuring. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to cut your chain. So what I usually do is take it and pop it on a piece of wire or my head pin, and I take both ends and I put it through there, and then I decide how long I want that to be, and then I cut them at the same time. It's so much easier doing it this way. So I'm going to do one that's maybe at about 1 inch long, so I just kind of pull that along and decide where I want it. So I'm going to trim that there. I just have to kind of isolate it. There we go. So now I know I'm going to have 2 pieces that are exactly the same length, and that's always one of the challenges when you're cutting chain, is how do I get them exactly the same length. So now what I'm going to do is take the other 2. Now we can always trim these up, but this is sort of the way I get started. And then I'm going to take one of the other ones that I've got there that I already cut, because I want to have something maybe a little bit longer than that. So I'm not going to go a whole lot longer, but I can sort of tell where it is there, so I can see that that one goes to about there. So I'm going to maybe go to about here, so it's not a lot longer. So now I can see that that's going to work. So I have 3 different chain lengths, and this one here is I'm just going to leave it the length it is, and of course we're going to have to trim that up. So you can use any chain. I just happen to like these little sort of fine lengths. So I think on I am going to take the longest one, and I'm going to put my little beads on there. So I've got a little 4mm round, and I'm going to pop it on there, and I'm going to just make a little wrapped loop and just bend away using my round nose pliers. Come in, and I don't want a very big loop on this. And we can attach all these things with jump rings, but on this one I'm just going to go directly on it, so I'm not putting so much hardware on there, because like I said, we can trim that up. And I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers and just wrap that up. So I'm just putting a couple wraps on there. Trim it, and then just kind of tuck in any burrs. All right, so there's one, and I might as well make the other one while I'm at it, because sometimes it's easier when you're making earrings that are, I mean, these aren't what I would call a complex earring, but when you're making an earring that's maybe got a few different moving parts, it can get a little bit confusing as to, well, what did I do? So I like to make earrings like this at the same time, and that just makes life a little bit easier. Years ago, I had a jewelry design business, and I was in about 80 stores across Canada. So you can imagine the amount of jewelry that we had to make. So I had myself and a production team making jewelry all day long, and we would make things, you know, sort of like this. And we would have to have a system down to making sure that the chain was cut perfectly each time. So that's how we got really good at deciding how long to cut chain. All right, so I'm going to start with those, and then I've got sort of the middle ones that are a little, and so I think I'm going to put the little hearts on those. So I'm going to use my small jump rings to attach the hearts. And I always like to use a small heavy gauge jump ring. So this one's an 18 gauge. So I'm going to take the heart and attach it. So I like to kind of get everything built, and then we can, you know, sort of modify as we go along. It's a lot easier when it's all sort of created, and then it's just attaching things. So I definitely will end up cutting some of this chain, but you know me, I always like to use a little more than a little less, but oops, you know, I guess it would help if I attached the chain there, wouldn't it? I'm too busy talking. All right, and then on the shorter one, I am going to add these little daggers. Now I may end up changing my mind and having to change them out to the longer ones, but let's start with this and see where we end up with. Almost forgot to put that on again. It's really early in the morning here. I haven't been sleeping. I don't know what's going on, but I haven't slept in months. So I just come here at 4 in the morning and I start filming like a crazy person. But that way you guys get your videos. I get this done early, and then I can get other things done in the store. Okay, so there's my little embellishments all done up. Okay, so now I'm going to take one of my smaller jump rings, and this is about a 6mm 18 gauge jump ring. So it's important for the sizing on here, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we go along. So I'm going to open that up, and what I'm going to do is sort of place these on and decide how I want to have them look. So I'm going to start maybe with, I don't know, maybe I want this one in the middle. See, and I can tell right away that I probably did this in the wrong order, but that's okay. We can always change it up. So I just kind of want to get an idea of where everything's going to lay. See, those are going to be way too close to each other. So let me try this one in the middle. I know this is kind of like when you're designing things, it's not always the easiest thing to watch because it might mean me mucking around a little bit. But I'm just going to turn that around so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. But this is the way that I design. I try it, play with it a little bit. Of course, this has got just a little tiny burr on the end of this, and it makes it hard to get in there. There we go. Okay, so actually that's kind of cute. I like that length. Now if I put that on there, it's going to be up like that. So these are going to be a little longer. So what I'm going to do is I am going to trim off some of these because they're just a little long. So I like the way I've got it. So let's make sure I remember what I did. Okay, so I've got, yep, okay, now I know what I did. Okay, so again, you can trim it by taking a piece of wire. I have another head pin over here, so I'm just going to grab that because you want to try to make sure that you're trimming them all the same. So I'm going to go down to the number 4 on here, and you can do it one at a time, I guess, if you want. That's probably easier. So I'm just going to go down to the 4th link and trim. Okay, so I'm just going to do that on all 4 of them, and I think that'll get me at a length that I like better. So just find 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and trim. So I'm going to trim up all 6 of these, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I've trimmed these all up, and I hope you understand what I did there. I was just trying to make it, you know, so that I understood how I wanted it to look before I committed to fully closing everything up. And it just needed to be just a little shorter. So I have all my components laid out, how I want them to look. And I mean, you can get really crazy on these hearts and make sure that they're, you know, because they have a little, they're not exactly symmetrical, so you can have them turning, but they're going to flip around in your ear, so I don't ever worry about that kind of stuff. So now I'm going to take my smaller 6mm jump ring, and I'm going to place on my little dagger first. Just trying to get that on the end is a little tricky. So you have to make sure that the chain that you use has a large enough hole to accommodate that jump ring. All right, and this one just fits in there nicely. And I'll make sure to put a link to all of our chains and jump rings and all these bits and pieces. And I always like earrings that have movement, so these are great. So now with this button, it does have an up and a down, so I'm going to make sure that I put this on the bottom side. Oh, and it looks like I already popped a jump ring in there. I was probably testing it out. Let me use the other one. There we go. I'll use that one. So that's going to go on the bottom side. So you see when you have your earring like that. Okay, and now I'm going to take one of the heavier jump rings, and I'm going to open up that jump ring. And this one is an 18 gauge or 16 gauge, I believe, and it's a little bit larger in size. And I need that to hold on to the ear wire. So I'm just going to, so now this gets pretty tight. So I'm going to pull this down with my thumb so that it leaves lots of room in here. And now I can put that in there. So I don't want to use two of these big jump rings because it won't fit. And then if I use only, if I use two of these smaller ones, then this ring is too low and then your ear wire doesn't sit properly. So you actually have to think about the ear wire sizes. If anybody wants a kit for this, I can throw one together. You just have to let me know. But I will have all the jump rings and everything loaded up on our website, and I'll put links down below in the description. All right. So there is one of them created. So you can see I've taken a button and I've made it into a little connector for a pair of earrings. So let me just finish up this other side and then I'll come back and show you the finished pair. Okay, so now you can see that I've got my earrings all completed. I like to have a mirrored image, so I have my hearts on the outside, my little dangles in the middle, and my little daggers on the inside. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Everybody's got a nice little stash of buttons. Maybe you've got some cute ones that your grandma left you in her stash. See what you can whip up. So as long as it's got a shank on the back side and you have the right size jump rings, it should work. So I will make sure to put a link below for all the parts that I used today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a like. Leave me a comment and tell me where you're going to get your buttons from. Are you going to try something new, or do you maybe have some pretty ones in your stash? Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.